As we here at TYT have been pushing for, Bernie Sanders did try to get the minimum wage increase, the $15 an hour minimum wage increase, added as an amendment to the COVID aid package. And so there was a vote, and every one of the senators had to go on record. And so they did. And they voted 58 to 42 to block it from being added to the COVID aid bill, which, wait a second, 58? That's not how many Republicans there are. And of course, that means that a number of Democrats also voted against it. And here are those Democrats and one independent. Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, Angus King, Tom Carper, Chris Coons, John Tester, Jeanne Shaheen, and Maggie Hassan all voting against adding the minimum wage increase to that bill. And look, I guess we expected that there would be some, but eight's quite a few actually, Cenk and Koa, more than I probably would have predicted would vote against it.
No, I'm not surprised by the number, and some thought that was a reason or excuse not to force a vote on this, because, well, then those 8 Democrats would be on the record, and the thinking there was that, well, then it'll make it harder for the $15 minimum wage to get passed because they all went on the record as being opposed to it, and it's going to make it harder to turn them around. No, I do not believe that that is the case at all. I'm thrilled that by the way, a huge part of this, no joke, no exaggeration, was the TYT audience demanding accountability, demanding it and getting it. Now, what we would have preferred is to actually have the bill passed, but we did get something very important accomplished here. Now we know who the 8 are, okay? So now they're not hiding in the bushes anymore, because that's the game that Democrats always play. Oh, it wasn't Schumer, it was Pelosi. It wasn't Pelosi, it was Schumer. It was Biden, it wasn't Biden. It was the parliamentarian, but we're never gonna vote. We're never ever gonna vote, so you can't actually pin it on someone. Well, now we know who the 8 are. We know who to pin it on, and instantly we have a petition. Okay, so there they are, okay? Joe Manchin, unsurprisingly, Kristen Sinema, who turns out to be the worst of the worst, giving Joe Manchin a run for his money on most despicable Democratic senator and probably winning. Angus King, Tom Carper, Chris Coons, those 2 are relevant. They're from Delaware. That's basically Joe Biden saying, I never wanted the $15 minimum wage. Those are the 2 biggest allies that Joe Biden has in the Senate. That was Biden doing a Kristen Sinema-like dance as they vote no. John Tester, and we'll show you the Sinema stuff in a minute. John Tester, Jeanne Shaheen, Maggie Hassan. Hey, Maggie Hassan, you got an election in 2022. Good luck. Good luck raising money from it, because as you're about to see, I don't think a single progressive should ever volunteer for you, donate for you. Not a single dollar. You got your corporate friends, you got it. You just told us you got it. I'm just gonna rely on corporations. Have at it, Haas. Okay, and then and I don't think they should even be voted for. I got a petition on that. I'm curious what you guys think, because I know that's the controversial part. Oh, but what if a Republican wins? So they could vote the same way? Okay, and so the petition is tyt.com/petitions/the-hateful-8. And yes, it's a play on the movie, okay, but it's also because of the Sinema dance and the purse and the cake and rubbing our faces in it. And Manchin saying, I will kill all of COVID relief just to make sure you have lower wages, and profiting off of it, all the money that they all collectively make off of our lower wages. So if you're gonna hate on us, okay, then you're the hateful 8, and we're never gonna vote for you. We're never gonna give you a single dollar. Go kiss more corporate ass and see how that turns out for you. That's my take on it, Koa. I'm curious what your take on it is. I know we're going right into the story, and there's so much more that John's going to tell us about this. But obviously, saying not even voting for them for some will be a bridge too far. But what's your take on all of this?
I'm disappointed by it, but like you, I'm not surprised. I think this is what centrist politics often look like, especially when you're looking along, how people vote. I think, especially given that this bill was tried and presented, during COVID relief, I think is really pertinent. So we're talking about a very specific moment in a lot of people's consciousness with the economy and labor and all these I mean, I consider them more so trend pieces than like labor pieces, but specifically about, how women are taking on so much labor with COVID and taking on, all of this care work that they're not being compensated for, and then effectively having to, homeschool children in the event that they have any, and then, clean the entire kitchen and the dishwasher and do all the laundry and everything. But on top of that, just making sure ends are met and making sure that, people are food secure and that housing is sustained. I was reading late last year from the National Domestic Workers Alliance in the US that specifically since COVID has happened, you're talking about like cleaners specifically in this country, many of them who are mothers to small children who haven't been able to pay their mortgage or rent in 6 months because of lost work. And so in some ways, I think that has the capacity to overlap with like service industries and all these other places that clearly have, a more like standardized minimum wage as opposed to, in some ways, just like low income labor. But I think it's very revealing in terms of who, certain Democrats are often trying to play to when there are opportunities like this, because they are rare. I mean, votes like this to at least like reconsider the minimum wage don't come along, all the time. So it's really disappointing, but not unexpected.
Yeah. Well, of the 8 that voted no, it's been like I've been doing research to try to figure out, since most of them haven't yet really explained it. This is American politics, so they won't have to explain why they voted in a way that went against the interests of their constituents, both objective and stated. But I've been doing research on each of them. The interesting thing is that almost all of them say that they're in support of raising the minimum wage. I found one article, it's from 2014. Maine senators won't back down on minimum wage bill. They're gonna fight to make it happen, even though the Republicans had voted against it, and they've both voted against it now. It's been 7 years. They're still voting against it. Maggie Hassan, she was asked by Manu Raju, he tweeted, she wouldn't answer when I asked her why she voted against an effort to raise wage to 15, quote, I have long been supportive of increasing the minimum wage. I asked her what was wrong with this one, and her aide interjected and said she's late for a meeting. Now, he later added to that thread with a statement that her office had sent to him that just said how much she's in support of raising the wage and she looks forward to an opportunity to do it. That's an interesting tactic. Just say that you're for the thing that you just killed. Like I was like trying to come up with like an analogy, and I think it's like if somebody were to scream at me, why are you stabbing me? And I were to say, I'm just interested in you keeping all of your blood. I look forward to future opportunities to maintain the integrity of your arteries. That doesn't help you as you're bleeding out. And all of them, like so many of them have said it, have promised that they're in support of this. But now they had an opportunity and they're not so interested. But really fast, let me throw one extra fact out, Cenk, and maybe this will help to explain it. Ken Klippenstein was very helpful, the legendary Ken Klippenstein, for tweeting out the net worth of the 8 Democrats who voted it down. And what do you know? They're not like you or I at all. They're actually quite wealthy, except perhaps Kristen Sinema, we don't know for sure. But the others, especially Chris Coons, these are multimillionaires who are perfectly willing to vote down a minimum wage increase during this devastating pandemic.
Yeah, so first on that point, yesterday we showed you a story that our own TYT investigative unit broke about how Joe Manchin is invested in potentially several companies that have lower wages, one as low as $8.81 on average for all their workers. And that's because West Virginia's minimum wage is $8.75. So Manchin, being the generous guy that he is, paid a whole 6 cents more than the minimum wage in West Virginia. So now he'd have to pay $15 out of his own businesses. So funny enough, Joe Manchin decided I'd rather keep the money in my profits than pay my workers. So, look, lucky me, I'm a senator. So I get to vote on it and I'll kill it so that I can make more money. Although he apparently has plenty, you could see from that list. And this is among the reasons why we call him the Hateful Eight. So now on the Manu Raju point, I'm thrilled and I want to give him credit for the follow-up, because for 40 straight years in this country, corporate Democrats have said, we look forward to doing X, right? and then they'll vote against X, or they'll secretly kill X, or they'll never bring it up for a vote. And then reporters go, dutifully report this Democrat in favor of X, right? And this is a perfect example, and they're still doing it. Joe Biden is in favor of the $15 minimum wage. No, he isn't. He just had his vice president vote no on including it in reconciliation. He had his two biggest allies in the Senate vote no as a sign of, don't get me wrong, I, Joe Biden, from the state of Delaware, had my two top allies from the state of Delaware vote no, because I'm not actually in favor of it. I don't, like, the only way that it could be any clearer is if Joe Biden flew a plane over the Capitol with that, with the big banner that said, I hate $15 minimum wage, I'm lying, I never meant it, okay? So if any reporter writes that Joe Biden's in favor of $15 minimum wage, they have a hilarious view of facts. That's, in fact, alternative facts. And so, and now the quote that John read you is, but all of them are over the top. We're gonna see in the next story, the Kristen Sinema story. She has a quote from 2014. Unconscionable not to pay $15 minimum wage. Unconscionable. She just did the unconscionable. And every reporter in the past, now they're getting better. That's why I'm giving credit to the CNN reporter who did a great job. Every reporter would write, Democrats are awesome. They want the extra minimum wage. Kamala Harris wants a $15 minimum wage. She just voted against it, but okay, they don't even point that out. Parliamentarian, you don't work for Democrats. You don't work for Republicans. You don't work for politicians. If you're a reporter, do your job. It's called journalism. And the headline should be Democrats kill higher minimum wage, because the Republicans have no control. They couldn't have killed it if they wanted to. It was Democrats who chose to kill it. Just that's the reality. I wish to God it wasn't, but it is. And by the way, I want to read you YT Prenude just did a YouTube super chat in the middle of the show. And I wanted to share it with you because it's such a good point by our audience. He wrote, could pledging not to vote for them pressure the Democrats into throwing them under the bus and running candidates other than them in 2022? That's part of the reason to do the petition now. If you do it right before the election, well, it's pointless because it has no chance of success. Then at that point, it only helps Republicans, right? But right now, we're 2 years out from an election. We have 1,000 choices who could run for these Senate seats. They say, oh no, don't be ridiculous. The incumbent has to run. Why? That's not a rule. No, these incumbents don't. Do you know what percentage Democratic voters want a $15 minimum wage? Not 14, not 12, $15 minimum wage. Not generally in favor. No, $15, 82%. Well, if you're against 82% of your voters, then you should not be the Democratic candidate. So don't ever vote for them. If they're not gonna do, look guys, this is the bare minimum. We're not talking about Medicare for all, Green New Deal. Those are great things and we wanna get to those. They're saying, no, we were all lying. We're not even gonna do the smallest progressive proposal. So take them at their word. They're liars and they're never gonna do anything that they told you. I mean, they're rubbing your face in it. Manu Raju asked them, well, didn't you just say this is your quote about how you want to increase it. She's like, oh yeah, I want to increase it. That's why I voted to make sure that we don't increase it. Oh, go find some other suckers. TYT.com/petitions/the hateful eight. Never vote for them. Never make the mistake of giving them $1.
Koa, any final thoughts before we move on?
I think those numbers that Clipstein tweeted out are pretty revealing, and I think they really speak for themselves. I don't think there's anything more to say after you've seen that.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.